Good morning, Unity. Happy Sunday. Hello, streamers. We miss you guys. One. Standing outside the door, love and mercy. You wonder if there's a place here for you. You know there's peace inside. Still you're searching for someone who understands the pain that you've been through. With the doors unlocked, the lights are on. What are you waiting for? Come on in, welcome home. You are loved, you belong here now. No matter where you've been, just come on in. Ooh, you'll find a place of rest in the arms of spirit. God has waited so long for your homecoming day. God knows the peace you sing and the hurt you're feeling. Spirit wants to hold you, it'll wipe your tears away. With a father waits with open arms. God is calling out your name. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved, you belong here now. No matter where you've been, just come on in. Well, there's room enough in the house of love for someone just like you. Whoa, come on in, welcome home. You are loved, you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, welcome home. You are loved, you belong here now. No matter where you've been, just come on in. Yeah, come on in, welcome home. You are loved, you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, welcome home. You are loved, you belong here now. No matter where you've been, just come on in.
And good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. So glad to have you with us this morning. I'm Bev Spivey. I co-minister here with my husband, Reverend Lawrence Palmer. And although we missed you last week, we've been here every Sunday with you since November. And last week we took the opportunity to spend a wonderful week in a cabin in North Georgia, in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. So we're all relaxed and refreshed and ready to roll on a few more months here. Our musicians are with us today under the direction of James McCoy, as always.
Good morning. You were in northern Georgia?
North Georgia.
I thought you guys went to Dubai. You helped broker the deal with the United Arab Emirates.
Oh, no, we're not flying these days. We road tripped.
Of course, of course. We have Mr. John Rose at the piano with us this morning. That's too much reverb on the mic. We have Mr. Orlando Machado at the drum set. I have to fix that. Our featured soloist is Karina Iglesias. And let's see, we have music from Richard Marks this morning and from Karina Iglesias. We're very excited.
Yeah, we look forward to one of Karina's original songs. So here we are, beginning again to focus our mind and our thoughts on this day of our spiritual community here at Pompano Beach. And one thing we've done is all year long, we've joined the Unity Movement in the yearly theme, which is perfect vision, seeing through a spiritual lens. And we encourage you to keep doing that, keep lifting your thoughts up. So this month, the month of August, our theme is on acceptance. And the affirmation is yours to keep in mind all the time. And we're showing you on the screen now, if you're on live stream, I release resistance and experience acceptance. I release resistance. I release resistance and experience acceptance. And Lawrence will be speaking a little more about this theme as we go through the month. So let's center in now with some prayer. As we take a breath together, put aside whatever is going on in the day. We bring our thoughts together to our spiritual community at Unity of Pompano Beach, across through the many who are signed in on our website and Facebook, watching us from all over the country. And actually, we have some in Europe as well. So let us join together now with our hearts open, wide, with love, exuberance, positive thought, and holding the goodwill for all, each and every person on the planet. We hold up in love, embracing them for the spiritual being that they are and that we are. And so it is. Amen.
1, 2, 3, 4. I know you all know this song. We've done it so many times. Let's all sing together.
I love myself so much that I could love you so much, that you could love you so much, that you could start loving me. I love myself so much that I could love you so much, that you could love you so much, that you could start loving me. I love myself so much that I could love you so much, that you could love you so much, that you could start loving me. I love myself so much that I can love you so much, that you can love you so much, that you can start loving me. I love myself so much that I can love you so much, that you can love you so much, that you can start loving me.
And we certainly do reach out to you with love today, whether you're tuning in on live stream, which is our website at unitypompanobeach.org, or perhaps you're with us on Facebook Live. Our Facebook address is Unity of Pompano Spiritual Center. So wherever you are, we welcome you today. And we invite you to go to the website to see the happenings of what's going on. We also invite you to look on the Facebook events that are posted, as we have many things going on through the week. We also have a link on the website for your prayer requests and to contact us. So please take advantage of contacting us for your prayer requests, and our chaplains are happy to hold you in prayer. So a few things going on are listed on that website. The one I want to promote for you today is a new class that we're starting that's 3 nights only, the next 3 Tuesday nights starting this week. Lawrence will be joining whoever comes to that class in talking about a broadcasting system that we all have. By virtue of our energy, we are constantly transmitting and receiving, and the trick to that is that most of the time we don't realize it. So as we broaden our awareness into understanding how thoughts and energy work, it's going to be an interesting class, and it's $30 for the entire series. Just go to the website and click on the link and join in and meet us there. So we look forward to seeing you. That will be a Zoom class beginning at 7 p.m. and ending at 8:30. So right now, as we usually enjoy a fellowship greeting time, we're just going to enjoy some music from our band, and then we're going to prepare for a time of meditation and lesson for today.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me. Ooh, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies are having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this world is a new world and a bold world for me. Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of a pine, you know how I feel. If freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Well, I believe that's a good way to start out any day. Thank you, band. As I share the Daily Word with you this morning, if you are one of the ones that keeps up with the Daily Word, you're going to realize that I'm doing yesterday's Daily Word today because it fits better with the sermon. So keep on doing what you're doing, and I'll do what I do too, all right? So the word for today is love. I am loving, I am loved. Following the teaching of Jesus, I love my neighbor as myself. To be truly loving toward those around me, I cultivate the awareness that I am a spiritual being, able to love and be loved. I practice self-love by taking care of myself. I give myself permission for quiet time away to relax and reflect. I may take an hour to exercise or spend time with a cherished friend. I do the things that make me feel joyful and most alive. Prioritizing my self-care allows me to have more love to give. I freely share my loving intentions, attitudes, and actions. I offer my help, attention, or talents where I am needed, lending a hand to a neighbor, sharing my time or treasure, or deeply listening to family members and friends with kindness and compassion. And from Mark chapter 12, you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Right now, we'd like to begin a time of prayer and meditation by singing, "You Know the Truth Is You."
When you feel the light and love of God around you, you know the truth is you. As the light of God, the love of God surround you, you know the truth is you. Let the power of God, the peace of God inside you become the power, only you. Become the peace, only you. That is you. As the power of the Christ mind connects you, you know the truth is you. May divine intelligence inside you always guide you to the truth. Let the power of God, the peace of God inside you become the power, only you. Become the peace, only you. That is you. That is you. That is you. That is you.
I invite you now, wherever it is that you may be, to settle into a very comfortable and familiar position for your body. And though you may be in a place that's not your customary place for meditation, it is good to remember that there is no space and time in spirit. So wherever you are, whenever you are, spirit is indeed present. And our experience in meditation is going into the stillness that is within us, into that deep of our heart where we know that which is absolutely true. And the greatest truth that we may know is that presence of spirit within us, around us, everywhere. So I invite you to imagine being enfolded completely in the presence and in the love of spirit. And imagine for yourself a color that represents love for you right now. I would invite you to consider an unusual color, something that is yours alone. We often think about love as being pink and soft and gentle, Perhaps love is fun and exciting, bright. So let the way you identify that surrounding, enfolding love be your own, so that it might make you smile. So as we give our body permission to relax, give your mind permission to let go and just to be present, our awareness is free then to commune with Spirit in the midst of this enfolding love. This is your time. Allow it to be perfectly yours. So as we have settled into ease and opened up our awareness, activated our engagement with Spirit, we settle into that stillness that is within us, and we do so together. Now, as you prepare to move your awareness to this time, this space, your time and your space, you know that even an instant during which your awareness is immersed in that deep of your heart, that healing and transformation take place. And you know that you can bring with you into your body, your mind, your heart, the essence of this experience in the stillness. And in this coming week, as you choose to or need to, you can recall this time in the stillness and be blessed all over again. So with a deep sense of gratitude for this time together, I invite you to take a deep, slow breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment. Exhale slowly, deliberately through your mouth. When you're ready, open your eyes and we will sing together. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah,
is the one seems to lead right back to me. I've looked for a way to be wiser, a way to be strong. Now I see the answer was hiding me all along. And I'm ready to fly over the sun like a rocket to heaven. And I'm ready to soar right through the sky. Never dreamed I'd find something to lift me so high. I've always had wings, but I wasn't ready to fly. Oh, restless, hopeless, and misunderstood, like so many others I know. So busy trying to keep holding on when I should have been letting go. I was given the gift to find it, the spirit inside me, but I never really imagined all I could be. And I'm ready to fly over the sun like a rocket to heaven. And I'm ready to soar right through the sky. Never dreamed I'd find something to lift me so high. I've always had wings, but I wasn't ready to fly. The answer to all my wonder is right in my hands. Now it's time for me to discover all that I am. And I'm ready to fly over the sun like a rocket to heaven. And I'm ready to soar right through the sky. Never dreamed I'd find something to lift me so high. I've always had wings, but I wasn't ready to fly. I've always had wings, but I wasn't ready to fly. I've always had wings, but I wasn't ready to fly.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, band. I want to say how much Bev and I appreciate our staff here at Unity of Pompano. Being able to be gone without worrying about everything being taken care of is really a blessing. So, band, we appreciate all of you, and Susie and John for carrying on. And it's good to be back, too. Well, as you heard earlier, the theme for this month of August is acceptance. And today I want to share with you about accepting self. Next week we'll take a look at accepting others. And the third week we're going to take a look at accepting mystery, which is something hopefully you haven't heard talked about before. Now, despite all the discouragements and the taboos that we have in our culture against being selfish and being self-centered and thinking about ourselves, There is so much about spiritual balance and spiritual growth that begins and depends on deliberate self-examination, self-awareness, and self-acceptance. Now, there are basically two perspectives from which we can go through this process of looking at ourselves. One of them is looking at ourselves as human beings and looking at what we do, how we live, the things that we think and feel and speak and do. The problem with that, one of the problems is, there's no real standard about how we look at that. How do we decide if we are acceptable to ourselves? It depends on who you ask. If you ask a billionaire what is acceptable out in the world, you're going to get one answer. If you ask someone who's barely getting by, getting their rent paid, you're going to get another answer. If you ask one person who's in a certain profession, you'll get an answer. In another profession, you'll get another answer. So one of the challenges with deciding whether to accept ourselves or not, depending on our humanness, is that it changes so much. And it changes day to day, sometimes hour by hour. We see things differently. So we don't have any real standard to depend on. It's always a moving target there when we're looking at our self-acceptance based on our humanness, our experience of being human. So that there's a second perspective that we can move from, and that is looking at ourselves as a spiritual being. Now, this is a very different perspective because there is no change in our spiritual beingness. We certainly change our awareness, our understanding. That changes with our maturity and with our experience. But the basic element, the basic principle of our spiritual beingness never changes. No matter the circumstances, no matter the time, no matter our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, our spiritual beingness is always based in oneness with Spirit. And on that we can depend. So no matter what nationality you are, no matter where you live on earth, no matter what family you're in, no matter what your behavior was in the last hour, that oneness never ever changes, and we can always hold to that. We can always depend on that. So, if we're going to find a place, a perspective from which we're going to decide whether we are acceptable to ourselves or not, which one do you think is a better place to be? A perspective that is constantly changing and that nobody has a standard on? Or a perspective that is solid and unchanging, based on substance, based on principle? Well, the obvious answer is that I'd much rather base my self-acceptance on that which does not change than that which is always changing. So we're going to take a look at that a little bit further this morning. Now, most of you are aware of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the couple who founded Unity 120 years ago now. And a lot of times I've heard people say that Charles is the head of Unity and Myrtle is the heart of Unity, because of their perspectives and the way that they speak and write. And I've come to disagree with that, because there are times when Charles can get into the heart and get into the feelings of things, and he does that very well. And there's some times when Myrtle is a really, really good metaphysician. And she's not just about touchy-feely heart things, but she gets down to the solid metaphysics of things. I'd like to read a passage for you out of one of her books called How to Let God Help You, which is a compilation, much like Charles's books. It's a compilation of her lectures and her writings. Another book from Myrtle called Myrtle's Healing Letters is a compilation of the letters that she wrote to people who wrote in asking for prayer. And this is where Myrtle did most of her work, and that's why we often think of Myrtle as the heart of Unity, because she dealt mostly with those people who were writing asking for prayer. And she responded to every one of the requests that she got personally. And in the beginning, she did it by hand. And every one of them was written. So Myrtle's Healing Letters are a compilation of many of those letters that went out to people and addressed their issues. But in this particular passage, Myrtle is acting as a really strong metaphysician. And she says, the visible universe is but the externalization of thoughts. Humankind, a spiritual word or thought, has existed from the beginning. Hence, in reality, humankind's higher self is spiritual, not human. We are life and intelligence expressed. We think and our thoughts become objective as forms. These forms are many grades of density, or as the physical scientist would say, many grades of molecular vibration. The real person is not any of these forms. We are the force that causes the forms to exist. Listen to that again. The real person is not any of these outer forms. We are the force that causes the forms to exist. We are the energy of the life behind all the forms. And when we know this, every phase of phenomenal life comes under our dominion. Thus, spiritual science teaches that only limited results can be attained by studying the body or any of its conditions. The body has its origin in the mind and can be successfully regulated only from that point. So this brings me back again to emphasizing the importance and significance of utilizing our spiritual beingness as the foundation for whether we accept ourselves or not. Now, I can hear some people thinking about this. Oh, you're saying that we're just these perfect spiritual beings and it doesn't matter what we do. I can remember when I was a kid growing up in Louisville, Mississippi, a tiny little burg in rural Mississippi. The only Catholic church in town was about as big as our restrooms. And I didn't know diddly about Catholic people, and as very few did where I grew up. But I always had the idea you could go kill somebody and go to the priest and confess it, and it's okay. I mean, that was my innocence and naivete and ignorance about that situation. So I'm not suggesting that just because you realize that you're a spiritual being that you can do anything you want to and it's okay. It is true that no matter what you feel, think, or do, your spiritual beingness does not change. It does not diminish you. It does not make you any less of spirit expressing than when you act in a way that we would consider perfect. So how do we deal with that? That is disturbing for some people. The fact is that when we base our acceptance of ourselves in our spiritual beingness, we look at everything differently. As Myrtle said here, when we know this, when we know that the real person is the energy behind the form, that the real part of us is spirit, when we know this, every phase of phenomenal life comes under our dominion. So when we're operating from a foundation of being aware of and having embraced and experiencing our spiritual nature, we can see other things differently. So when I look at myself from my spiritual nature and say, Lawrence, boy, that decision you made yesterday was really a boner. That was not smart at all. That made no sense whatsoever. Then instead of judging myself and saying, well, I'm not going to accept myself anymore because I made that dumb decision, we can say, I stand in my spiritual beingness, realizing that with the information I had at that time, with the feelings that were going on inside of me, with the thoughts that were going on inside of me, that choice that I made was logical considering all those things, even though from this perspective I realized it was not a good choice to make. And knowing what I know now, I will not make that choice again. See, can you see the difference in looking at that from a spiritual perspective and looking at it from in the midst of it? When you're in the midst of a bad decision, it's really hard to be self-accepting in that moment and not be judgmental because you have those rules and regulations that you may have violated in that decision. That does not change your spiritual beingness whatsoever. So I can return to this place of accepting myself as a spiritual being, looking at all of my thoughts, feelings, and actions, and saying, this one worked out pretty well. Okay, that's all right. This one was really dumb. I won't do that one again. And this one I'm not too sure about. We'll find out about this one later. I can do that from that elevated position of consciousness of a spiritual being. You see how significant that can be for us. It makes a world of difference in how we live in the world. And I'm going to speak next week about accepting others. And the same principle will come into play in a little bit of a different way. But it's important for us in the beginning. And again, in our culture, we're often told not to be selfish. Don't be self-centered. Don't think about yourself. But I found that if you don't think about yourself, you have trouble thinking about other people in any kind of positive way. So it is indeed important that we look at ourselves, we examine ourselves in an objective kind of way. That we examine our human behavior not from a human perspective, but from a spiritual perspective. So that I can see what's going on without judging it, without rejecting myself. Still being able to accept myself as a spiritual being living out in this world and sometimes making decisions that work out well and sometimes don't. Sometimes saying things that were really clear and to the spot, and sometimes saying things that make no sense whatsoever. And sometimes feeling things that are consistent with the heart of a spiritual being, and sometimes having feelings that are so silly and selfish and immature that it shows up in a crazy way out in the world. But again, when I do those crazy things, when I do those silly things, that does not change my spiritual beingness at all. Not at all. It gives me the power and the place to look at myself in a different way and to say, this is how I'm going to change my behavior because of what I see. Instead of saying, oh, I'm a sorry human being, I failed again, I messed up, everything that my parents said about me is true, and just getting into despair over it. You don't need to do that. Now, it is important that we hold ourselves, as we do, as I'll talk about next week, holding other people accountable for thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Certainly to be held accountable, but not in a blaming kind of way. Our world is changing so much. There are things that go on in the business world now that would never have happened even 5 years ago. There are things happening in our political realm. People acting in ways that would not have been accepted 5 years ago. In a positive way, there are some things happening that are being challenged now that were acceptable before. Racial comments at one time were kind of grinned at and gone on are being challenged now. The perspective on women is being challenged now, and that is a good thing. That is a good thing. So as we stand in our spiritual beingness and our spiritual knowing, we look at these things, again, without judgment, but with deep awareness and deep willingness to be a part of the positive light evolution of human consciousness. And as Myrtle said to us once again, the real person is not any of these forms out in the world. We are the force that causes the forms to exist. And when we know this, every phase of phenomenal life comes under our dominion. Ever since I was a kid, I've been impressed by the creation story. When the story tells us in Genesis that God is speaking to Adam and Eve, He creates them, He puts them in this wonderful garden, and He says, now go be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over the earth. Which means you're in charge. This is your place. What happens to it is up to you. And we see where we've gotten ourselves in some areas because of that. But having dominion means having responsibility and having the ability to be responsible. That was given to Adam and Eve, and it's given to us. And we have that responsibility of creating our world as it can be. That can only happen when we live from our spiritual awareness, when we live from our spiritual beingness, and we look out into the world and feel, act, and think appropriately. We are the force behind all that is in the world. Now that force works, period. It works if we're making bad decisions. We are still creative in the world. If we're making good decisions, we are creative in the world. If we are unsure about things and we just spin around in circles, even that is creative in the world. And when we go out and we hold the highest thoughts, that is creative in the world. When we go out into a day standing firmly on the foundation of our spiritual beingness, that is creative in our world. That is what's in our hands. We are to have dominion over this earth, which means being responsible for it. And one of the ways we do that is accepting ourselves as a spiritual being and seeing ourselves operating in our human realm, guided by our spiritual awareness. And that makes all the difference in the world. When we go out into the world and all that we do in our relationships, within ourselves and with others, when we begin, we start and we operate from that firm foundation of spiritual knowingness and accepting ourselves as a spiritual being first and foremost. We are one, connected with Spirit, and from that we get the wisdom we need. We get the strength that we need, the courage we need, the understanding that we need. All that we need is there for us as we look out into the world. So as you go into this week, I encourage you to give some thought about accepting yourself. And when you start thinking about accepting yourself, be careful not to slip into accepting yourself or rejecting yourself as a human being, but accepting yourself as a spiritual being and then going from there. You'll be much more informed, and I assure you things will go a whole lot better for you. So give it a whirl. You are a spiritual being. I am one with Spirit. God bless you.
And join us in the coming weeks. There's more and more. Because this philosophy that unity holds may not be what was your tradition in growing up. Perhaps you were taught you were born as a sinner and God would reject you unless you're perfect. These are not ideas that are even biblical, and certainly unity doesn't hold them. So stay tuned as we learn more and more about acceptance. The books that Lawrence mentioned by Myrtle Fillmore are available to you for a free download if you choose to go to truthunity.net and do a search there, and you'll be able to download Myrtle's two books, Healing Letters, and the other one is How to Let God Help You. So we can tell you how to let God help you help us, and that is by sending in your donation. There are many ways to give here. We also have Amazon Smile charitable contribution available with your shopping. So take a look at ways to give and choose one of those, would you please, as you accept yourself as a spiritual being. Would you please also recognize the value here in this teaching, getting this teaching out into the minds and hearts of our entire community and world. So we thank you for everything you give. And we have a blessing that we like to use here. We do it now with good, but you can think in any way that you would like to switch around these words. You might even say love. Love is mine, and so forth. For now, let's do it with good. With a grateful heart, we acknowledge God as source of all that is. Today, we let go of any concern of lack and allow good to unfold in our lives. Good is ours. Good and more good is ours. And ever-increasing good is ours. Everywhere we go, we see this good. We feel it, we experience it, we freely give it, and it multiplies itself around us. And so it is. Amen.
1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to live my life, it's gonna take some sacrifice to step inside my light, to embrace the infinite, to embrace the limitless. I gotta see beyond my senses, 'cause the universe just wants me to say yes, to live my dreams and be all that love is. So I sang my song, I know it won't be long, but faith, take me where I'm gonna be, 'cause I stand in the light of God, there's nothing that can bring me down. I stand in the light of God, 'cause I stand in the light of God, there's nothing that can bring me down. I stand in the light of God. Simplicity's a key to see the possibilities that life has in store for you. Yeah, there is no one that's outside that's gonna gratify your life. It's only the love that dwells inside. If you see the splendor of all tough situation, when you're stuck and you just can't make a decision, when you're all alone and no one else around you, running out of tears and asking what you're gonna do. That's when you step outside yourself and see a different way. That's when you realize that all you had to do was pray. That's when the smallest light becomes the only thing you see. That's when you put your faith in all the possibilities. Receive so many blessings that you couldn't even count. Live life abundantly so now you feel what it's about. Now this is cause you're standing in the light of God, you know. Now let that God inside you motivate your soul, yeah. I'm standing in the light, yeah. Whoa. There's nothing that can bring me down. I'm standing in the light of God. There's nothing that can bring me down. Oh, stand up. Oh, stand up. Stand up. When life gets hard and people want to knock you down. Oh, stand up. Stand up. Get up, stand up. Stand up in the light. Get up, stand up. Stand up in the light. Get up, stand up. Stand up in the light. Get up, stand up. Stand up in the light. Get up, stand up.
And that's Karina Iglesias. Iglesias. She's got an album, Stand in the Light. Take a look. We are so fortunate to have our wonderful musicians with us. Each of them in their own right is out there providing excellent music. The meditation song this morning was James McCoy's original. So as we close today, we ask you to keep in mind all of your spiritual components going on in your mind, and hold that higher watch for each and every one of us as we share in our self-acceptance and as we share in being a blessing in this world. So won't you join those of you that know our prayer for protection that is used all throughout Unity, written by James Dillett Freeman. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Happy Sunday. Blessings are falling, are falling, are falling. Blessings are falling like a sweet, sweet rain. Blessings are falling, are falling, are falling on me. Beauty is falling, is falling, is falling. Beauty is falling like a sweet, sweet rain. Beauty is falling, is falling, is falling on me. Oh Lord, I receive your blessing. Oh Lord, I receive your grace. Oh Lord, I will dance forevermore. Oh Lord, I receive your blessing. Oh Lord, I receive your grace. Oh Lord, I will dance forevermore. Oh Lord, I receive your blessing. Oh Lord, I receive your grace. Oh Lord, I will dance forevermore. Oh Lord, I receive your blessing. Oh Lord, I receive your grace. Oh Lord, I will dance forevermore. 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 Blessings are falling, are falling, are falling. Blessings are falling like a sweet, sweet rain.